Not everyone experiences awakening in exactly the same way, although there are general themes that are common to many. Some people may have an awakening where the sense of a separate self falls away, but they just carry on with normal everyday life, going to work and living much as they did before. Others seem to have much more intense and dramatic awakenings, which leaves nothing untouched and life changes quite dramatically. I will briefly describe some of the initial experiences that do seem to apply to many, with some variations. The first signs are often that the old ego strategies and manipulations don't work anymore. You realize you are not in control and really have never been. Whatever control you thought you had or seemed to have was illusory. Often there is a feeling of gigantic failure. All of the striving, efforting, all of the doing no longer works in the way it used to. The ego really doesn't like this at all. You may suddenly realize that everything previously had been built on sand and made from sand, and now your sandcastle is being washed away by the incoming tide. As you stand on the edge of the void, existential fear may come. It is a fear of being nothing, of no longer existing. All you can do is be willing and surrender. Fear shakes you around for a while. It seems like it is the fear you have been running from all of your life, and here it is to be felt and to be faced. You are facing into the storm and you stay because there is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide anymore. Finding out what is on the other side of this is part of the process of awakening. At the same time or sometime before or after, there may come the energetic awakening and rising of Kundalini. This can bring feelings of sublime bliss beyond anything you had ever previously known. This can last for anything from hours to months or longer and is like a spiritual honeymoon. There is no guarantee that Kundalini will rise, but it does often and more usually accompany an awakening. You may notice that you now seem to be heading in the opposite direction to the world and to most people you know. It feels like a complete turnaround, and this seems to be part of the journey you have to do entirely alone, although you also feel very connected to the way life is wanting to move into the whole of life. You begin to notice the mind is often still or very much quieter than before. The mental noise is absent for increasingly longer periods, and this becomes normal. You realize this is your natural state. Mind chatter is now experienced as very uncomfortable and unnatural. The above tend to be the main first signs of spiritual awakening. There is usually a process that unfolds over time following a genuine awakening, which is a process of purification and the falling away of the old conditioning. As I'm writing for the first time, please forgive me if there are any grammatical mistakes or other mistakes. Spiritual awakening happens overnight in only few cases, which can be counted on fingers. For example, 1. Ramana Maharshi. 2. Swami Vivekananda. In general, to become a spiritual person, one has to get churned in many ways so that he overcome all the auras, i.e., vasanas like kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsyalya. Those are the key things which combinedly makes a mind, and when those traits reach a higher level in mind, it starts craving for physical comforts like physical relations. It makes the body lethargic. Mind will be wandering everywhere with no single aim and concentration. Mind becomes cruel and start thinking like a criminal mind. All these traits are common in every born body in minimal quantities. In my opinion, one should not force himself to become a spiritual person. Daily routine, habits, the core character will gradually make a person ready to shred all those vasanas, and thus Mother Nature will send the positive auras into that body when the respective human body and mind are filled with uttermost purity and love. In that stage one will treat every person equally. The main element that need to be shredded is ego. One starts seeing the soul instead of other materialistic natures in every human being. When all these are done with perfection and there is no place for negative and worldly thoughts, then that person has successfully stood on the first step. Then starts the real exam. Nature starts testing that person in every moment by giving some or other problems so that it can know if he can withstand those with patience or gets back to the initial stage. When one starts understanding that he, soul, is the Paramatma Ahambhramhasmi, then his consciousness tries to combine with nature, and then for him, soul body is not the limit. In simple words, or if it is to be stated in a single sentence, to wake up the spirituality in self, one should start questioning who is the self? Whoami? That is the key to reach higher levels of spirituality. To know that self is not physical but eternal is the spiritual awakening. You can ask me that. You have stated that physical body is not the self, so are you a spiritual person? Answer: as I have just stated. In real I'm still trying to shred off all the auras, still I can feel the physical pain, wherein a person who has reached higher levels in spirituality physical pain doesn't bother him, body is just physical representation of a soul. Just like a flag is representation of a kingdom, if the flag is torn or damaged it doesn't mean that the kingdom has fallen. In the same way if a body is damaged with age or other natural means it doesn't mean that the soul is ended. It needs an other body just like new flag is erected when it is torn. After attaining Atma Sakshatkar, i.e., Atma is nothing but Paramatma, or in other words after adding moksha, then there is no need of a physical body to get in. In other words, when a king has won against all the kingdoms and he is the only king to the whole world, then there is no need of an flag representation as he is ruling everywhere. In the same manner when one has combined the self with the nature or Paramatma then there is no need of an physical representation, human body, Shu, as the king doesn't need the flag.